right, welcome back to the Record Straight podcast. I did that absolutely disgustingly.
No, that was fine. It just needed a little.
Need the energy.
It hasn't got Benny flavor, but that's okay. It's got you flavor.
Speaking of Benny, elephant in the room.
I mean, no elephant. He's just not here.
Yeah, he's not here. He's actually sadly passed away.
Don't say that. Don't say. No, he has not. He has has passed the baton over to just the two of us. He's got a wonderful creative endeavor, that Creative Hub, that he is fully immersed in. And so he might pop in as a guest every so often, maybe. But right now, fortunately or unfortunately for everyone listening, it's just going to be
stuck with us.
Me and you. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, we want to absolutely thank Benny for his contribution in the last 6 episodes. He's been amazing. Obviously opening us up to his lovely BG community, which sadly is no more, but has also opened him up to greener pastures with his new Futuration, that Creative Hub, our new office.
Yes, our home. Thank you, Benny.
Thank you, Benny and Aiden.
Yes.
For that, which has been awesome. So yeah, hopefully we see him in here again soon. But or not. Like I'm just happy to.
He might not want to come back.
Yeah, I'm just happy to do me and you.
That's fine.
This is cool for me. But let's tell everyone kind of what we're talking about today. So what are we on?
It's, I think today, just the time of the year, we're going to talk about the development tips for artists for 2025. Kind of what we both think a priority for artists to kind of get in tune with, get organized, develop processes for. I think to start, we could kind of say what we're doing in 2025 because Cartel will face a bit of a change as well.
We sat down and actually had a planning meeting for the first time since we,
gracious.
I think, opened the business on Monday.
It's taken 10 years.
It's taken us 10 years to actually have a meeting between the two of us that wasn't a domestic, but
so much violence.
But yes, we have some very, very exciting things coming up with Cartel. We've made some changes in line with the industry, but we've also made some changes in line with what we think is most effective with working with artists at a local and developing level, but also artists at a more national and international level, and just making sure that
we're providing the most amount of value.
Absolutely.
That's basically what it was. We wanted to ensure that everything that we do in 2025 aligned again with the way of the industry and the way that artists should be working and the platforms that are available, that we're consistently making them better and creating new things and new ways and new services for that to happen. So
do you know what I'm really excited about?
What are you excited about?
The course. I don't know if we can probably say that right. Yeah, I know. So we've actually... Is this under wrap? Like, can we talk about this? Like,
I think so. Yeah. I don't think she'll mind.
One of the things that we're currently working on with our lovely, lovely friend from Newcastle, Miller Roberts, who is actually our ex-management client, but very, very good friend, is we're working on a music course that covers all areas of an artist development, from creative, dealing with other creatives, mix notes, et cetera, and then from our end, dealing with the more communication side of everything around how to actually develop within the industry, create sustainability and all that kind of stuff. And that's something that I'm really, really excited to roll out. It's something that allows both you and I think, to get really creative and step into a world that we necessarily don't generally get to develop into, which is great.
And it provides a holistic approach for artists. I mean, they're going to learn from Miller, who has gone from independent grassroots into a really quite developed artist, how that creative process is going to work. And she gives a lot of advice and real world experience. And then from our side, the communication. So that course will hopefully balance both and allow artists to have a full scope of what they need.
Yeah, I guess that's where artistry and business meet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're the business side, which is never the fun part, but that's okay.
You toe the line with both.
I do toe the line, don't I? So let's get into today's stuff.
Yes.
2025, can't believe it's already the end of the year of 2024. Like, it's incredible how quickly this year's gone.
So fast.
But what we thought would be most valuable moving forward for, all of the listeners today would be going through what our kind of top picks are, or top priorities are for artists, in 2025, what they should be focusing on, what the main goals and drivers are to help develop sustainability. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here to provide, is information around how to create sustainability as an artist.
Totally. I think that when we were discussing what we should be saying and what we were thinking
in the car on the way here,
we
very unorganized,
so prepared. We both really wanted to the first kind of one for 2025, and I guess every year an artist goes into their planning stages, is to understand what they're actually trying to achieve, whether 100%. It's they want to develop into a career artist and what that looks like and the processes in place for that, and then, or if they want to be a creative artist that does it as a hobby and just has releases that go out, or just has their social following that they tend to, and they don't have grand plans of that, career.
Absolutely. I think, defining intention is everything. I know that we've touched on this in previous podcasts, but I think moving into 2025 and being in 2025, what are you actually trying to achieve?
Totally.
Because if we don't know, we don't have a project. And it's about as simple as that. And, understanding what your priorities are in terms of, do I want to create sustainability out of this or do I not? Then informs our actions moving forward. So, for example, an act that does want to create sustainability can then go down, okay, what are my strengths and weaknesses? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which we're going to, dive into a little bit later today.
Do you want to dive into that now? How do artists define those strengths and weaknesses? So I guess let's do the creative as a hobby first, and kind of what that looks like for an artist.
I think creative as a hobby, I'm uniquely qualified to talk about this because I do it for a hobby.
Totally.
I think doing it for a hobby is doing it for fun. Hobby, the definition of hobby is fun, right?
It just means that for those artists who want the distinction, I think it's just the creative as a hobby is something you just don't want to develop financial sustainability off. You don't want the career. You don't want, you might want to get some money from it, and that's wonderful, from streams or from a few gigs here and there. But your grand plan is not to be the guy or the gal or whoever in front of millions of people in a stadium, or developing a career to a point where you are world or nationally recognized.
Yeah, the hobbyist is someone that just does it to fulfill their own needs. Yeah. And it is not that any of this should take over, like even for the more, career-driven artists, not that it should ever take over lives, but it's just a part of your life that fulfills you. It fills a cup, essentially, but there's no kind of forethought or focus into the communication of that creative because there's no need.
Yeah, no. You also don't have to get bogged down in all of the audience engagement, outreach, all of that stuff that artists generally hate.
And that's totally me as an artist. So, for context for people, I still create music here and there. It's all terrible and it will never see the light of day and it's just rotting on my hard drive. But, that fills my cup. I have no intention of releasing that music, no intention of, collaborating or upskilling myself in any way. It's just something that I like to do when I've got the time, but I have other things in my life like Cartel or, like running or whatever it is to be able to fill up cups. So I think that's really important to understand that distinction, because I think both you and I speak to artists daily that really toe the line between, okay, I want to do it for a job today. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, I don't like the industry stuff. I don't want to do this, or I don't like that certain part of this, so I don't want to do it, or I do want to do it. And I think it's really important to really set that intention at the very, very beginning of each year, obviously review it and really understand what are we trying to do here.
Totally. I think just for artists listening, if you are interested in and you're sitting on a fence and going, well, I don't actually have an actual, I don't know whether I want to be a hobby artist or I want to be a career artist, and you don't really have to define yourself. But if you don't know and you're sitting in that in-between place, we will put a worksheet that we put together for a goal setting exercise that has helped. Yeah, we'll put it in. Where will we put it?
In the show notes.
Oh, in the show notes. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear what you said. And maybe that will be helpful to help define that, because we've spoken to a couple of artists. One, I felt so bad. that I was like, yes, this is what you do. And then she came back and she's like, I actually don't want to be a career artist at all. I was like, okay, well.
But that's good.
At least she recognized it.
At least you recognize it. And I think branching off that, moving into the more career-driven artists.
Totally.
I hate saying the word famous. I also hate the word I hate the word career.
Let's call it sustainability.
Sustainability. Creating sustainability as an artist comes in many different forms. It doesn't just come in playing stadiums or touring or anything like that. Sustainability could look like making enough income to be able to then
fund back into the project
so that you're not outlaying any costs.
Totally.
To continue doing it as a hobby. But that's still a form of sustainability. Sustainability can also look like doing it as a job that pays your bills and so on and so forth.
And it doesn't necessarily mean stadium touring.
Yeah.
It also could mean that you're a very proficient songwriter. There are some of the most successful artists are producers who sit in the background.
Absolutely. I think that leads us into kind of, our next point, or at least my next point. I know that we're going to go through our kind of top picks of kind of what to do in 2025. But I think for me, after defining your intention, we can then plan what we want to do. Mm-hmm. And, I think then it really comes down to, okay, what are the strengths and weaknesses of a project and where can that take us?
Totally.
And if we use an example of an act that is very, very proficient in the live scene, wants to tour or wants to build to touring, wants to play live gigs, wants to make the majority of their income through that, and that's where they get the most fulfillment, well, then we have a plan. And the idea would be to build, a plan around that as opposed to, trying to deal with publishers or sync and licensing when it's not really necessarily a strength of what you do, but also not leading you where you want to go.
Totally.
On the other side of the coin, if you're an artist that, again, I think Miller is a really good example, and we're going to reference Miller a lot. Hopefully we get her on the podcast when the course comes about. But, Miller, when we first kind of started working with her, absolutely no care or want to tour. Obviously that's changed now, but I
think we was more focused on being a songwriter.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so our focus as a team is really kind of honed in on, okay, let's do top lines for dance music to bring in some income. Let's build and sustain relationships with publishing houses, sync and licensing agencies, develop, collaborations and things like that, and was very focused within that world. Yeah. And we're able to develop some sustainability because we had a really honed focus.
Totally.
And I think that's really important. Defining your intention, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, understand strengths and weaknesses that allow you to get you to your intention.
And then follow the format to get to the result.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the third step, is actually putting actions into place to get to that result. And that's where a lot of artists maybe don't have the resources or desire, but that's probably one of the more important ones, because you actually have to put the steps into place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the things that we've seen since we've started Cartel is that there's a really big disconnection for artists at an independent and local level that don't necessarily have that support or that framework to be able to work towards.
Totally.
They're like, okay, I'll get on the studio this date. We'll mix and master it on this date. We'll put it out on this date, and it's going to connect, and we're going to do it. And, but the intention isn't there in terms of, there's no plan to lay out a year. There's no real kind of understanding of, the long term.
Totally.
And, longevity is slow build equals longevity in the market.
Yeah.
Is something that we say consistently, and slow build comes in many formats, but I think the main format is understanding, okay, what are the actionable, measurable things that we can do that get us to our intention?
Totally. I think that, again, for artists listening, not just the hobbyists, we'll put together a worksheet or some kind of document and put it in the show notes to be able to set that, to be able to see what your intention actually is. Because there are a lot of artists that we talk to, they go, I want to play, bless her, shout out Renee, I want to play Beyond the Valley 2025. And we went to her, okay, how? And okay, what's the plan for that? And she did so well. She went back, she filled in that worksheet, and she now has a sustainable plan all the way through to December 2025, where she'll hopefully be able to play Beyond the Valley. So
By the way, it might not work.
It might not work, but at least the actions are there, and her framework is now there. She's gotten month to month to month, and I think that's what artists have to understand. And it rolls into a point I really wanted to talk about was the consistency, and developing a consistent plan.
I love this
for your year.
Yeah, I love this.
Artists always say, I want to do X. I want to play X show. I want to get X amount of streams. I want to, whatever it is, with no real plan on how to get there. And unfortunately, and fortunately, it's a very exciting thing. Artists just need to get their head around it, is that you need to plan actions month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year. We work with an artist, shout out Mr. Co, I guess, Connor and Oscar, who have planned month to month all the way to 2026. They know exactly what EP they're putting out there and know exactly why they're doing it. They are moving towards that point because at the end of 2026, they're going to reset and reposition for the year after.
And it spurts off their intention.
It does.
They know exactly what they're going to be and what they're going to morph into.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think artists are missing that key point, that key, they get the intention part right. They know exactly what they want to do, but that key of planning and staying consistent to that plan and rejigging and readjusting to keep working towards that goal is really important. And it's not just a plan and then you put it and that's kind of it. It's, what is my budget for this? And who are the artists that we're going to collaborate and work with? And who am I going to reach out to in industry and media? And once you have it all laid out,
process,
it honestly is so easy to make those small actions. And artists get so bogged down, and artists, we are talking to you, and I hope that you don't think that we're talking about you. Like, this is directly to you. Please ensure that you are putting those plans and those month to month in place, because once you have them, the actions become so clear. Like it's not just about, I'm going to get to X beyond the valley. It's, okay, I'm going to make X connection because that connection will lead here. And I'm going to hit 4 different DJs because those DJs are more likely to play that. And I am going to be the forefront of that feature vocalist for them. And so that's taking one route. And then I'm going to build audience development and engagement and all of those things that you're much better at talking about. And this is the plan on how I'm going to do that. And I'm going to focus on that month to month. And I'm going to lead towards 3 singles. So artists, please pen and paper out, what do you want to achieve in 2025? And they're through all the aspects, through the audiences and your social growth, through streaming growth, DSPs, through the content you want to put out. And most importantly, you're building, not most importantly, but building your catalog out to ensure that it's, I want to do 3 to 4 singles, and then I want to drop my EP at the end of the year, and have that back catalog or work on it over the dark period, over December, January, songwrite, collaborate, introduce yourself to industry and media, develop your network. So then you can, in January, go, okay, I'm going to release a single in Feb, a single in April, a single in July, an EP in October. And in January, you already know what your steps are.
Yeah. And there's no, I think, we'll run through like a year like that and how that kind of works in a second. But I think the big thing to understand there is that a lot of artists will hear that and go, well, what if I write better music tomorrow than what I'm writing today?
You always will.
You always will. And there's no reason why we can't swap and change things. If we have the plan in, release at, end of Feb, and then release again in April, and then release again in June, and then release again in an EP in October, there's no reason that, you write the best song you've ever written that you want to communicate, swap the 3rd single out.
1,000,000%.
Who cares? It's not, I think the big thing to understand is if this was easy, there'd be a uni course and I'd still be an artist.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. There's no real wrong answer here.
No.
I think the way that we've kind of done it in the past, it's worked really well with multiple artists as a format is generally, we're past it now, but generally kind of, the September to December period is that period of the year where people are trying to rush out their last releases or, do whatever it is.
In the forefront.
And the focus is more so shifting to the year that's following. Generally what we would recommend is, pretty much all of November and December, from very, very, from mid-December to end of January is what is known as industry blackout, where industry people like us, media, DSPs, radio,
It goes
agencies,
a bit slower. Everything's a bit
slower.
Yeah.
As I'm sure everyone listening to this is aware, industry are hard to get a hold of at the best of times. So over that period, somewhat impossible. So releasing music over that period, not that it is wrong, or not that you shouldn't do it. It's one of those things where, you know, we should have something that tides us over that period in the front end, but in the back end of the project, it should be all about planning.
Yeah, totally.
You know, generally what we've done and spoken to a lot of artists with over that period from October to January, go away, write as much music as possible, be in the creative process.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about releasing anything.
No.
Right? Let's collaborate. Let's go outside of the box. Let's try and upskill ourselves. If we don't understand mixing, let's learn it. Let's go and do other things. Let's go produce or write other genres. Let's go and do all that stuff.
Be really creative. It's your chance to be really creative.
And that's it, right? And then in the January period or at the end of January, let's sit down. Let's have a look at the catalog that we've got. Yeah. You may have 3 to 4 singles. You may have 10 singles. Let's say you've got 10, right? Out of that 10, right, you want to release 4. Out of that 4, 2 are completely finished. 2 are either at demo stage or recording stage or whatever it may be, right? That's the beginnings of a plan. That's a back catalog. So with that, we can then go, okay, we can release in March, go do a full label standard release cycle, which we're going to go through in the next episode.
That'll be a whole new episode.
That'll be a whole new episode. And then, you know, we'll release in March, April, May, you know, May or June, the second one. But from February to June, we've got that period to finish the other 2 songs.
1,000,000%.
Right? And then from there, we can set the plan for the next 6 months.
Yep.
And what that allows us to do is plan and work ahead.
Totally.
You know, and I think one thing that we used to do with our management clients was throughout that period, having an understanding of what the year's going to look like, we can then budget. We understand what we need to spend on each record.
Definitely.
We understand the time investment it's going to take to put these out. You know, there's a really clear focus around how we want to develop in industry or live or whatever, but everything comes off a back catalog. Back catalog is the cornerstone of an artist project because it's what you're communicating.
Yeah, totally. That's the art form. And I guess just following on from that, it's also live industry. It's also allowing you to create the content,
100%,
to communicate the narrative with your audiences,
and not rush,
and not have to freak out. It's about honing in on your communication skills and how you're going to develop repeat listenership, how you're going to tackle each platform, what you're going to build into, and be able to then give yourself enough time in the admin week that you do, or the week to week or day to day, whatever admin process you decide to take, time to develop your network, time to be able to go and support other artists who will then support you, time to go and build industry support and connection and build relationships. Which I don't mean to swing it back to the next one, but I would love to talk about building relationships and staying consistent with that, because a big trend is what I think in 2025 is going to be reliant upon your communities, your core fan bases, your core audience members. How do artists think they're going to build that audience? It's going to be through your peers, the network that you develop, the relationships you choose to build with industry who you might not even want to be signed to. But that doesn't mean you don't talk to them. You don't showcase your development. That doesn't mean that you don't, you might not want to, media, bless for everyone who is listening. But
it does fuck all. Let's call a spade, right? If we've got a communication.
It's not as important as what it once was, but it's still important as part of the artist project to navigate.
Yeah.
And if artists want to build a relationship with Triple J or commercial radio or online media or even online blogs now, that's going to be a huge thing. I mean, not a lot of house music artists would listen to this, I don't think, but there's House Music Oz or House Music US or something on Instagram who post different covers of different stuff. I think there's something, we were doing it for clip art, I'm not sure, but it was like some kind of plug playlist thing that goes directly on Instagram.
I think
that's
what you're
the
trying
new
to
media.
say, so the new media is social.
Well, yeah.
It's social endorsement.
It's kind of like bloggy, I guess. But like integrating all of that into a plan and building those relationships is what is going to translate to a core fan base.
Agreed.
In 2025. It is no longer, I think, about how can I affect 400,000 people. It's how can I affect 40 people who are going to buy a ticket to my show? How can that 40 then bring one friend each and translate into 80 for the next show? How can I then turn it to 160? I think that's double. I don't know.
Don't ask me.
In the next one. And then how is that going to grow? Because $160, so 160 people times a $20 ticket, that's your money to then mix master the next song.
Yeah.
You can refunnel that into the project.
Absolutely.
And it's taking the 40 people community under your wing. I'm rambling, but do you agree?
No, absolutely. I think, I think the essence of what you're trying to say is exactly, what we're trying to get across is direct to listener is more important than anything else. And,
Totally.
I think as if all the listeners can already tell, I'm the more kind of straight down the line kind of thing, or you kind of go around it. I think my next point, which kind of bounces off that, is 2025, we've got to get away from vanity metrics.
Totally.
It is mind my language, but it is fucking hurting projects, right? If we look at the types of listeners that we have, passive, who are guys that come across an artist once, they listen once, or they're exposed to a bit of content once, they keep scrolling or they go to the next song, they will never, ever, ever come across you again.
Yeah.
That eliminates the focus on numbers.
Definitely.
Right? Great. Your song got to 1 million streams. If you cannot sell 1 million tickets, it is a waste of your fucking time.
It just doesn't translate as much as what artists would hope that it does.
It doesn't translate at all.
Let's
be honest.
Well, using you as an example, I mean, how much is Skyfall on?
I think, the
streams are over 1 million and we really struggled to get people to your shows.
I couldn't even get family and friends to my show.
No.
Like that's.
It was a good show. It was a good show.
But that's a reality. And you look at me, at my peak of my artist career, full-time artist, traveling
which was a
through
while
whatever.
ago, which is where vanity metrics was at its height as well. Like that's when Spotify started to really focus, industry really started to focus on million streams equals a spot on a lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the difference now, and we can even, we look at the live scene, post-COVID to really highlight this. I mean, you look at festivals like Splendor, Groovin, Falls, great iconic festivals that have been known to develop artists into the stratosphere of Australian music. They're gone.
And they're probably not coming back in 2025. Like maybe they will and hopefully they do.
Yeah.
But it speaks to a larger issue.
The landscape has changed, right?
Totally.
So for an artist at a local level who's developing now, it's not about gaining passive listenership.
Yeah.
It's no longer impressive to have 1 million streams and to get added to Triple J. I speak to artists daily who say, I got played on Home and Hose last night. That's great. It's great. It's a great feeling. It's great endorsement. It's third party endorsement. It's that media outlet saying you're cool without you having to say that you're cool.
You chuck it on your socials.
You get a
bunch of fire emojis.
But even with the chucking it up on socials, your listener or your potential listener couldn't care less about what playlist you're on or what radio station you're getting played on. Yeah. They are just formats of discovery.
Totally.
And that's what's really important to understand. So getting away from that vanity and that ego trip of I need to be supported by X industry to how do I go directly to my listener or my potential listener, and repeat exposure develops discovery develops fans generate sustainability for artist projects.
Totally.
That's the format.
Totally.
And repeat exposure comes in multiple forms. If we look at communications as an umbrella, right? And then spouting off that, we have live and in person, we have social media, we have digital strategy, we have media, right? I'm sure there's a couple that I'm forgetting, but under that umbrella, it's not one works better than the other. It's how do we implement all of these into a larger strategy that allows us to help elicit repeat exposure, because that's discovery.
Yeah. And all of those speak again to the holistic plan that artists need to have and build. They need to focus on each of those.
Absolutely.
With repeat exposure as the top level of what they're trying to achieve.
Repeat listenership is the goal.
Yeah.
Right. So at the end of the day, we don't want someone going to a DSP platform, listening to one song and then going away. Right. People who buy tickets, people who buy merchandise, all those kind of guys are people that will search you, will look for you, will, will be a part of your initiatives, will go top to bottom of your catalog.
Of an album.
Absolutely. And, they're the guys that we're trying to cultivate, right? And that doesn't happen on one single. It doesn't happen on one album. It happens collectively over a longer period of time, over a catalog of music, over a cascade of development, opportunities.
Totally. Totally.
So in 2025, I can't say it anymore. We need to get away from vanity metrics because it will hurt you.
Totally. And I think also there's an element of, just off the back of that, because I absolutely agree, an element of staying realistic to what is actually occurring in our landscape. I think that you touched on it, where the vanity metric of getting onto a festival lineup and having those like Triple J spins or whatever. We have to, as an industry, and as artists, not me, but like as artists and as an industry, recognize that the goalposts that used to mean something don't necessarily mean that anymore. Because again, the festivals that you listed, they're no longer going to be a 2025 festival. Maybe they will, but maybe they won't. What will pop up and what has been popping up are tiny little 1,000-person parties. Even the promoters that we speak to daily, they're putting together
activations,
1,000-person parties in a small underground car park,
under a bridge.
A bridge. They're activating core fans. If industry is starting to recognize that the core fans, those 1,000 people, those 40 people you bring to an activation to get email lists off and build those 40 emails through the communication, why are artists so concerned with, I need to get on Triple J because that's how I'm going to get exposed. I need to get editorial playlisting because I'm going to get 1 million streams. Again, if you're not able to make financial stability, the streams become irrelevant because you're not getting, that's not how artists are going to create their career. 1 million streams is not going to get you anything. The 40 people buying tickets through the door and then buying a piece of merch, that's going to get you a carear sustainability.
And signing up to a mailing list that you can continually
touch on and giving them different aspects of your artist project. I mean, we're working with so many wonderful artists that I can reference here, but just because we spoke to her yesterday, King IV, she is not going to, look her up, amazing. She has a very specific brand, a very specific.
We love Cheyenne. She's great.
We love Cheyenne.
Yeah.
A very specific narrative. That narrative is being built now through her EDMs, her red letter blogs. Those things are a specific way that she's connecting with her core audiences that has nothing to do with streaming. It has nothing to do with Triple J. It has nothing to do with industry. It's about cultivating like-minded people. And I'm sorry, I'm still rambling, but I just think it's so important for artists to understand that if you're affecting 50 people that are going to do something about it, that 100 streams, if they all listen to it twice, is more valuable than the 1,000 passive streams that you'll get through editorial playlisting.
Yeah, absolutely. I know what's totally way more interesting to us is if an artist comes to us and says, we've got 2 million streams, Triple J supported us, we've got all this commercial radio support, we've played on X Festival, yada, 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 versus an artist that says, I've got 100 streams, but I can sell 100 tickets. I've got an email list of 100 people and I'm looking to further my relationship with them.
And here is my yearly plan.
And here is my yearly plan. I know exactly who we want to work with.
Totally.
Because it's an attitude of building. Another really good example, I think what you've touched on there is something that, I know that we're running out of time and that we should probably end this, but data is everything.
The collection of that will be a huge thing in 2025.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I want to use another example of an artist that we've worked with, and we were really heavily involved with this, but there's an artist out there called Blushko, who is a shout out.
Wonderful human.
Wonderful human being. He's releasing his album, or would have released his album now, Floral Surfboard, which is an amazing bit of music.
Go check it out, top to bottom.
But one of the things that we did for one of his singles called Questlove was the whole kind of purpose behind it was when him and Jujo and
also a wonderful human being,
all the guys that were creating that record weren't really doing anything in the studio that day. They couldn't come up with anything. So they went to go and get a sandwich to have something to eat. They came back and wrote the song within half an hour, and then that became the story of the song. It's like 3 young boys on their way to find the most perfect sandwich. So we picked that up and we ran with it. And the whole purpose, instead of just doing some random launch show at at the Workers Club that's going to do fuck all for
apart
development.
From getting a little bit of content.
Apart from getting content, we teamed up with a cafe called BAM Corner Store in Essendon, where we did a day where Blushko did a 15 to 35 minute set, something like that.
Spoke his way through some of the songs. Invited everyone down. We teamed up with with BAM to create the Questlove sandwich. Utilize that to promote the album a little bit more. But the main focus of that day was to collect email data. Yeah.
Everyone that was walking in was asked if they wanted to put their email in, or as they were leaving, and if they had a really good experience. Christina and I were there to talk to them around, hey, do you know much about Blushko, et cetera, right? I think that there was probably about, and Blushko's a good example because he's still at the developing level. I think we had about 30 people there to begin with that Blushko had invited.
Yeah.
But, the walkthrough that we had from people on the street, I think we ended up with about, throughout the whole day, I think we had about 150 people roll through, 75 of which had never heard of Blushko before, leaving, knowing who he was, really interested for what was coming up.
We collected their emails so he can keep in touch with them.
That's development.
We gave them a flyer saying Floral Surfboard with a little QR code for a pre-save. That is and we got content that we would have gotten from Workers Club anyway. So it allowed him to touch on all of the different aspects of growth, while also affecting his core community. And he did it cost effectively. All artists can do that.
Absolutely. Wasn't expensive at all.
No, it wasn't.
If anything, he
we don't know fully, but
if anything, it was more favors than anything else.
Totally. It was cross collaboration, cross promotion, and that was utilizing his network.
Absolutely.
So I think we've outlined a lot of.
Absolutely. I think to overview just before we finish this up, I think, first things first at the start of any year, defining and understanding what our intention is. What are we trying to achieve? Because that may change and that may develop, but it's always a good point at the end of the year or at the start of a new year to really understand and define what our intention is. Off the back of that, really understand what your strengths and weaknesses are and let that infer where you're going to go.
Totally.
Then develop off a back catalogue.
Totally. Then create the consistency, make your consistent plan, put down actions that's going to lead to that goal at the halfway point of the year, the end of the year, create month-to-month action points that you're going to achieve to get to that point.
Absolutely.
Create a format, a process. Then build your relationships, network with other people, go and see their shows, develop your community and a way that you're going to affect your audiences, and then go direct to listener.
Absolutely. I think
collect data. This is good.
We can keep going all day. I think we've gone 10 minutes over time. We said we would cut it half an hour. It's like 40 minutes in. But I think that's really good to round us off for today.
I agree.
As always, guys, feel free. We want to be as accessible to any artist as humanly possible.
Totally.
Obviously, we get super, super passionate on these things and we can be very kind of abrupt and front on. We can assure you that, we are open to all discussions. So if artists do have any questions or something that we cover in this that, isn't 100% clear, we encourage all artists to shoot us a DM, shoot us an email at info@cartelaustralia.com or info@cartelmanagementoz.com. Let me say that again because, wow, that was terrible. info@cartelmanagementaus.com.
Yeah.
Or just shoot us a DM because that's generally fairly easier for most artists. And we're happy to answer all questions.
We'll also put the worksheets in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And I would really recommend artists who are kind of deciding whether what they want to do creative or have this as a full-time career. And also to just, if they want to learn how to definitely plan out their 2025, we'll put those worksheets in the show notes.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you so much.
Idaroo.
See ya.